Welcome to the Talent Learning Show podcast series, episode 63 with independent learning tech analyst John Lay. Today I interview Mike Scarbrough, CEO of Litmos, about the new Litmos, their spinoff from SAP, and their areas of impact in the learning technology industry. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentlearning.com. Well, welcome back, listeners, and thank you very much for tuning in to another episode. On this show, I'm fortunate to interview the senior executives and customers of the world's most prominent LMS and learning tech solution organizations. And today's no different, with the CEO of Litmos here to give us a much needed company update about what's been going on with one of the greater enigmas in the industry. Anecdotally, Litmos has a really prominent spot in my memory, or my embarrassment maybe is even a better word, is because it was my first introduction to a cloud SaaS-based LMS, and it was in 2012 or 13. And I was sitting around the executive table of a dinosaur on-premise private cloud LMS organization. And I was in charge of sales and marketing at the time. And we kept on running into this company called Litmos, and nobody knew who they were. And it was lightweight. And our customers said, look how easy it is. And, we just scoffed because it was an unheard of concept at the time to take a free trial or do any of that. But so we got the team around and we signed up for a free trial, and we laughed at how light and how little this LMS could do. Suffice to say, we were wrong and short-sighted, as Litmos was really one of the first examples of a cloud-based LMS. It set the example for lots of competitors to enter in the market and to compete in a different way. And really the concept of on-premise, private hosting, long sales cycles, perpetual license, all that went out the window and started. But in 2015, Litmos was acquired by Collidus. In 2018, Collidus was acquired by SAP. SAP already had SuccessFactors LMS platform, and nobody could figure out why the acquisition and how the two would play together and why you would even want to. And then the unbelievable happened in late last year. Francisco Partners, a private equity firm, was able to purchase Litmos away from SAP, out of the black hole. That's been 7 or 8 months. We've got the CEO here that's been leading that charge, the separation of the company, the striking out on its own new adventure. And we're going to learn all about it. Mike, welcome to the Talent Learning Show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, John. I really appreciate it, and enjoyed talking to you today. So I'm looking forward to it.
Right. Cool. Well, everybody here, everybody being probably all your competition and lots of buyers out in the industry, are curious about what's happening. As things like this don't happen, we see the acquisitions go one way, and then once they get up into the big companies, we never, ever see it go the other way. So you're like the first example here of matter escaping a black hole. But let's start at the top. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found yourself in this role, and then we'll start digging.
Sure. So started out early part of my career in finance and accounting, and worked on with some big Fortune 500 companies, doing a lot of like divisional reorganization and stuff like that. But I always wanted to move my career into technology and into leadership positions in and around technology companies. So happened to run into a Deloitte & Touche strategy consultant that I was working with at the time. Her husband owned a technology company. I ended up joining that company. We grew it, sold it, and it's just kind of been a repetitive process since then. For about the last 15 years, I've been working with Francisco Partners owned companies. And so I've been a serial CEO for the firm now multiple times.
Wow,
and so,
cool.
Yeah. So love the firm. The firm has done really, really well. We're usually ranked, number 1 in the world, in private equity world. We have some very large funds that give us access to capital and allow us to grow. I would say one of the other big strengths of the firm is, they have a cadre of top tier managers that we can pull from, myself excluded, but the rest of the people know the firm. They've had a really good successful track record, and that's a big draw for top tier management teams that want to be part of something, with that caliber of people. Specifically, the firm has a handful of key investment areas. I mean, we don't invest in everything, mostly SaaS software solutions, and we do payments, we do healthcare, we do a few other areas. One of the biggest areas, if not the biggest area, is actually EdTech. And so we've had a number of successful outcomes. We're involved in a number of successful EdTech-based companies. You can see them on Francisco Partners website and who they are. And so we really, really, really know this space. And we've got a lot of people at the firm and a lot of managers who are very familiar with the EdTech space. So we come to this whole situation of a lot of experience doing divisional carve-outs, which is what we're doing here with SAP, a lot of experience, in the EdTech space, and a track record of success. So we're thrilled to be here, and think we've got a huge opportunity here with Litmos.
Wow, great. Well, tell us about the current status of Litmos, the company.
Yeah, so
what's it look like? Share some of that, please.
Yeah, so SAP was running it in a typical, kind of way, which is they had developers that were working for Litmos, they had salespeople that were working for Litmos, and they had customer support people that were working for Litmos. But all of the shared services like accounting, HR, that marketing, all of that stuff was done by SAP, not by the division that was Litmos. And so Litmos wasn't, the highest priority at SAP while they owned it. And so, they were kind of getting through the day, but they weren't really excelling, I would say. And they realized that and said, look, we either got to get serious about rolling this, into something bigger, or we need to exit. And ultimately they decided to exit. That meant that when we exited, there were several things when we do these carve outs that we have to do, depending on what the company that's doing the carve out, how they had been running the business. But they've been running it as a standalone division where it had all of its, services, meaning controllers, CFOs, CMOs, all already worked in the division. It was a complete running business. That's one type of carve out. That wasn't what we were doing here. We had kind of a fraction of the business, and the other shared services we had to hire and bring in. So in part of the carve-out process, we've been hiring, the key management positions that we're missing, separating the IT infrastructure. So we're completely separate from SAP, where we were in their data centers and all of that. We've been standing up all the business systems, like CRM and accounting systems and all that kind of stuff. We've been establishing our roadmap and getting to work on our roadmap and really going through and kind of establishing internally our vision and strategy and communicating that to all of our employees. And this today, we're starting the process of communicating with kind of everybody else, customers, our potential customers, and the rest of the L&D community. And so we want people to understand where we are, where we're going, and kind of what our strategy and vision is. And so that's kind of where we are. We've made a tremendous amount of progress. All of the key components of hiring the management team, establishing our business systems, separating the infrastructure, and doing a lot of the development work on our roadmap, all of that is completed, and we're fully operating as a pretty normal business at this point. And it just becomes kind of all right. Let's get busy.
Let's get busy. Wow, congratulations! That must have been quite the challenge to pull that all apart and figure out what you're missing and plug the holes like that. That's quite the project, to say the least.
It helps a lot to have a partner like Francisco Partners who does these a lot. So we're not kind of learning, like we know how to do them, and we have the resources of Francisco Partners with their operating partners and the experience of them having done these, and the catalog of managers that they could quickly bring in that have experience doing these things. So
wow, interesting.
That's how we're benefit able to go as fast as we've gone.
Mm-hmm. So what's the scope of the Litmos solution? The last we checked as a marketplace, you were making an LMS. Is that still what it is? Is it broader than that?
We do quite a lot. I mean, again, I don't know, what everybody knows, so I'll just assume, I need to be comprehensive. So, most people think of us as an easy to use LMS that primarily focuses on, like the HR compliance component of learning. And we certainly do that, and I think we do it very, very well. But we do a lot more than that. And those are the pieces that not everybody are as familiar with us around. So a couple of areas that we focus on, and we have a large cadre of customers already in, and we expect to grow these areas of our business. So content creation is a big component of what we do. So we have our own content. We have content creation tools that allow people to create their own content. And we have connections to marketplaces, and we have all of the areas and issues around managing content, both creating it yourself and utilizing existing content. So we do a lot around content management. The next area is kind of what I would call OEMing, meaning you have content, you're a learning organization or somebody who's using us as an infrastructure piece. And so with that, we have a big API layer that lets you kind of develop your own, whatever you're doing, and use us as the delivery system for delivering your content to your customers. And so we're kind of the plumbing for those businesses. And so that's another big part of our business. Just to kind of give you, a sense of, it's not just, have a few learners and sign them some courses. There's sort of some bigger tickets to that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, the second one, certainly a popular concept in the industry of the headless LMS, of really a big market, in my perspective, from training companies, associations, even customer learning initiatives, where brand is so important that they want control of that front end and want to be able to enable the delivery of content, not rebuild a back end LMS, but truly build the front end, because it might include things very non-LMS-y, for data from CRMs or
exactly.
other internal systems. So that's turning out to be one of the or a key driver or a key requirement in the industry. So it's nice to hear that you do that. It's not easy, and so that's not something that's
that same technology is also used in what I call the external use case. So you have the internal use case where you're training your team members, your organization's team members. A lot of times that is requirements or job onboarding, onboarding type training. But then you have your partners, your customers. You want to integrate a training solution into your customer portal so that your customers can learn more about your goods and services and how they work, and how to apply best practices, that kind of thing. So that external use case, usually there's a lot of look and feel customization. It needs to look like your website, and it needs to have an API layer that lets you integrate it into your website. And so we have a lot of knowledge and expertise, because we work with a lot of companies to help them execute that external use case. And so it's very similar to the OEM thing, which is a more like an industrial strength version of that. But it's kind of the same idea.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible then to manage multiple audiences concurrently? So can you do employees with your external audience, not in the same group, but in the same implementation?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's usually how a lot of people do it. So you have kind of your internal training that you're doing for job onboarding or skill upgrading or requirements training around things like HR. And so then you have separate courses that are aligned to things that you're training your external learners on, which is kind of how your products work and best practices and that sort of thing. So we work with the companies are doing both. Most of our customers that start with the internal use case, but then as they grow and they get comfortable with it and they realize that they need to train their external learners as well, then they want to integrate in and add that to the mix.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. From a just looping back to something you said from a content standpoint, so the integration with third-party content libraries is fairly common in the industry. However, creating your own content isn't. And my understanding is you guys create your own content in addition to third-party libraries. Tell us about that, because that's super unique.
Yeah. So there's a huge cadre of catalog of third-party content, and the real issue is a couple of things. One is how do I utilize optimize all of that content. Meaning I've got thousands of learners, I've got tens of thousands of possible courses. I've got to somehow match the two up. Within that, there's a core curriculum a lot of times around things like HR and compliance or safety training or some of these other things. We have our own content catalog where we think we have, either specialized knowledge, or, we've got history, a lot of the content studios that we purchased, and we will almost certainly be doing more of over time. Start to much like Apple TV or Paramount. It's like you have the delivery system, and then you have the unique content, and those together create a compelling offering for people, saying, I can only get this content on this one delivery system, so I really value that content, so I'm gonna pick them.
Okay, cool. And how about from SAP is so big and global and multi-industry. Does that carry through with Litmos, or did you pare it down a little bit and picking your punches? To tell us your strategy around that.
Yeah, the company certainly had areas of focus geographically. So that was primarily in the US. Then the next biggest would be in Europe, but mostly the UK, and then APJ, which was mostly Australia, New Zealand, but we have very significant customers in Asia and in South America, and we're in Central America and all the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. And we do expect through various business arrangements to grow those parts of our business. Our application is very horizontal. It's already in multiple languages, like lots of different languages. You can go to our website and see exactly how many. But the application itself is already multilingual, and our content creation tools, allow us to work with customers and create content. A lot of our international customers are also creating content that is multilingual, and we help them do that. So we're all over.
How about from an industry standpoint? Any particular industry focus, or
we have industries that we've historically done better in, given the SAP lineage. They were heavy in manufacturing, but financial services, healthcare, we've got a lot of good really good healthcare content, and we're big in healthcare. And so you can kind of tick through the industries that we've got so many customers, and we're such a horizontal application that we probably have some customers in most industries, but there are certainly industries where we over time have shown a bias towards. We've just got more of in that industry than some of the other industries. And some of that is our own background, like selling into manufacturing, and some of it is how those industries view and use LMS systems. Some of them are more into it than others.
Okay, makes sense. How about I guess anything you can share? And now you're a private company. I don't have to share anything if you don't want, but in terms of bigger than a bread box, like number of locations, employees, customers, revenue, any of that you could share with us?
500 employees, significantly under, but under. And revenue, I don't know that we give that out publicly, but significant, meaning think of it as kind of a round number, say $100 million revenue number. So not trivial, but not huge. And
not trivial.
Yeah. So significant company.
That's great. That's employee to revenue ratio there is that's pretty good. That's pretty good. How about where I started the conversation today is the ability to sign yourself up for a free trial and kind of attack the I don't know, the simpler, more basic side of the marketplace. And typically that comes with less professional services from sales or implementation or integration. Has that changed? Is that still the focus on that side of the market? Do you have professional service teams that you can augment solutions with?
Yeah, so SAP, I guess the management team that was running it wasn't that into services. I am very much into services, not services per se, but I'm more about solutions. Like, we want to provide a solution. We're not here to sell you anything. We're here to help you. We're here to help you solve problems, and whatever we need to make available to you to solve your problems, we need to have available. Now, we might provide it directly ourselves, or we might have a partner provide it, but we're going to guide you to it. A lot of our role is to say the features, the content, the services that you need, you come to us, we're going to understand your situation, and we're going to help get you to a good solution. That may mean we provide it directly, but it may mean we provide it indirectly with a partner. Either of those is fine as long as you get to the right answer.
Wow. Cool. Well, you guys are growing up there, for sure.
But to answer the specific question, we are adding lots of services.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, in my estimation, it's really important differentiator. With 1,000 different learning solutions out in the marketplace, it really is the people and the solution that make the biggest difference and help solving problems versus maybe in days gone by, you were buying an LMS to check a box, but now with all the external use cases, that's not the case. Now you're about making money or saving money or improving your business processes. And without a doubt, it's competitive differentiation. And so, being able to help organizations get there smarter and faster is a good part of your solution to have. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's, I kind of talk about it as you're either worried about the scalpel or you're worried about the surgeon. Like most people are interested in having the best surgeon. And if she knows what she's doing, you're going to get a much better outcome than saying, hey, I've got the best scalpel. The scalpel is just a tool. Me giving you a scalpel doesn't make you a surgeon. So the whole act of learning and know is really the critical component of what we're doing. So our people are our most important asset. Our knowledge and best practices of how to use the tools is really why you should want to, work with us. The tools themselves, I'm happy to show you our tools, but let's not hyperventilate over the tools. The real issue is, do I know how to use my tools to get you to a good outcome?
Smart. So what's on the roadmap? What's coming down the pike that you can share?
Oh, that's a big wicket there. So, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of people I know are talking about AI, and AI is certainly an important part of our roadmap. And AI is showing up in a lot of different areas. It's everything from, obvious things like having people evaluate courses for completeness. Like, did you cover all of the topics that this topic was meant to cover? Can you have AI kind of grade your course and say, oh, you missed a couple of things here, just for completeness? You can also have AI do things like recommendations, where you say, I'm interested in improving myself in this way. Can you recommend some courses for me? And you can have one of the big areas when you talk about how people learn and how people get better at something. The first thing I'm going to do is teach you how to throw a baseball. But ultimately, you got to go throw a baseball. Like, you can't just take the class and have me show you a video. You got to actually go do it. And so the practical side of learning, you can use AI. If you say, I'm going to have a salesperson, and that salesperson is going to practice doing a demo. And the only way I have of giving feedback for that practice session is if I take a human grader and they grade it. Well, that just doesn't scale very well, meaning I can't do it 100 times because nobody's going to grade me 100 times. But if you use AI, it might not be as good a grading as you could get with a human grader and not as finesse. But you could cover a lot of things. Like, if you ran your demo into and captured the video and ran the video into an AI grader, the grader could look for keywords, make sure you covered certain topics. They could listen to your tone. They could look whether you were smiling, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of feedback you could get from an AI grader of something like that. And that would dramatically increase my ability to practice, because there's no point in me doing it if nobody's going to look at it and grade it. It's kind of pointless. Maybe there's a little bit of help if I just do it on my own. But the really benefit is where I'm getting feedback from having practiced it. So you train, you practice, you train, you practice. Like, there's a loop that's going on here. And we put people through a learning path or a journey or kind of career development where I'm going to start with fundamental concepts. I'm going to move to, kind of core concepts that are a little bit more complex. And then ultimately, I'm going to end up at very complex, high level, expert level concepts. Defining that learning journey and that path, AI can help with a lot of that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of uses for AI, and we're pursuing most of the ones that I've just talked about and more. Again, the firm itself being a technology-based firm, we have tons of people that know a lot about AI, and we're bringing a lot of our firm's broader expertise across the ed tech world to bear on our products and our solutions. So it's not just what Mike knows, it's this whole community of people that we have at the firm that really understand how to apply these technologies. I don't view technology as, it's kind of like anything. It's only as good as the people that are applying it in a way. It's your utilization of it. Are you doing it in a smart way and making it, helpful for people, or is it just a trinket, thrown in the pile?
Wow, fascinating. All right, cool. Well, we're at the end of our time, and we always wrap up our show with a quick advice question. I'm going to change up the question I was going to ask you and put you on the spot here. You mentioned earlier about your clients going from starting off at employee and then extending into the external use cases. If you had to offer a nugget of advice to all of your clients, for example, that are just in employees right now, and how should they get started having that conversation or expanding that in, or knowing where to expand that out to external audiences? Any advice you could give them? You probably have 1,000 of those clients in that boat right now that might want to expand the customer or partner learning. Anything you want to share there?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand and prioritize and put together kind of a life cycle approach. Trying to do everything all at once is usually kind of not a great plan. So it's a bit of a journey to go from having no formal external customer-facing content to kind of a full-blown, example of that. So you work with us, we work with you, we come up with a plan of how to get into execution mode. And it's not a single point in time. It's, we're going to do this in Q1, we're going to do this in Q2, we're going to do this in Q3, and next year we're going to do this, and next year we're going to do this. And so you have this kind of journey to go. And rather than saying we're going to do everything all at once right from day one, which is usually kind of a recipe for a bad outcome.
Outstanding. Sage advice. Mike Scarbrough, CEO, Litmos, serial CEO. That's a funny way to describe it. Obviously, the right person for the job here, for the transformation, the extraction from SAP, and now the full-blown growth in the marketplace. Exciting to hear about Francisco Partners and all they're bringing to the table here to help grow the solution. And I'm sure the advancements in AI and the other things you're going to do are going to help raise the bar across the whole industry and push everybody forward, trying to keep up and catch up, and all that thing is great. And I look forward to it. Thanks very much. You got a lot of things to do in your daily week, I'm sure. Taking time to come on this podcast probably isn't top of the priority. So I really appreciate you carving the time to do that and sharing the update with our listeners. It's enlightening to hear what you're going through and also the updates of a really big name in the industry. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and really appreciate all the work that you do. The role that you fulfill for our industry is critical, and it's really helpful to me and to everybody else. And so really appreciate you allowing me to come on today.
Outstanding. Litmos.com is the website, talentedlearning.com. You can find more of our fiercely independent content. Listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Talented Learning Show podcast series. We hope to hear you and see you on the next. Have a great day, everyone.